most importantly is taking good care of your because if you have almost automatically you have brain disease. And if you look at some of the craziness he got into with drugs and alcohol and relationships, he was miserable. He's not miserable now because he can correct his negative thought patterns.
여러분 안녕하십니까, 돌콩입니다. 오늘은 지금껏 제가 읽었던 뇌에 관한 책 중에 가장 실용적이라고 느꼈던 책을 여러분들께 한 권 소개를 해드리려고 합니다. 정말 여러 셀럽들의 담당이로도 알려져 계신 바로 Dr. Daniel 에이먼 선생님의 You Happier 이라는 책입니다. 닥터 에이먼이 가장 유명하신 게 뇌 스펙 스캔입니다. 지금까지 전 세계 한 144개국에서 약 25만 장의 뇌 스캔을 보셨다고 해요. 그래서 그 뇌 스캔에 기반해서 뇌 타입 검사를 만드셨는데 저도 했고요, 만드시랑 같이. 여러분들 가셔서 무료로 뇌 검사 해보실 수 있습니다. 그리고 그에 대한 이제 해설이 이메일로 날아오는데 조금 더 자세한 해설을 보시려면 이제 책을 보시면 되죠. 그 이메일에 포함되어 있지 않은 내용도 있는데 저와 같은 뇌 타입을 가지고 계신, 제가 어떤 타입인지는 말씀을 드리지 않겠습니다. 여러분들 검사해보시고 책 보시면 아실 수 있을 것 같아요. 저와 같은 뇌 타입을 행복하게 하는 것들의 리스트에 어떤 게 있냐면 모닝 루틴 그리고 제가 진짜 만두씨랑 가장 많이 싸우는 것 중에 하나가, 저는 시간을 정말 칼처럼 지켜야 하는 사람인데 만두씨는 어떤 일을 꼼꼼하게 하는 게 중요한 사람이어서 시간을 좀 자주 늦기도 하거든요. 그래서 가장 많이 싸우는 건데 저에게 있어서는 시간을 지키는 게 너무 중요하다라는 이야기가 있어서 깜짝 놀랐고, 반면에 리스크 테이킹을 하는 것에 약하고 카오스, 그러니까 정리가 되지 않은 상황에 대해서 상당히 불편해한다라는 사실도 여기에 나와 있어요. 반면에 만두씨 같은 경우는 저랑 뇌 타입이 달라요. 되게 비슷할 거라고 생각했는데 달라서 저희도 깜짝 놀랐는데, 만두씨 같은 사람을 행복하게 하는 것은 계획을 짜는 거. 진짜 만두씨는 계획의 지옥이거든요, 보면은. 저는 사실 그렇게까지는 이렇게까지 해야 되나 싶을 때도 있는데, 앉아서 올해의 재정의 계획, 그 다음 저금 계획, 그 다음에 인생의 계획, 이런 거 세우는 걸 정말 좋아하고 이걸 위해서 시간을 꼭 따로 떼어놓고 저랑 같이 하고 싶어 해요, 그걸. 그리고 투두 리스트에서 그 아이템을 이제 완료한 후에 지워서 없애는 걸 즐긴다. 반면에 거절당하는 걸 좀 싫어하고 규칙이 계속 바뀌는 것을 되게 힘들어한다 라는 이야기도 나옵니다. 이런 것뿐만이 아니라 뇌 유형에 따라 어떤 식으로 공부를 하는 게 이 사람들한테는 효율적인지, 그리고 어떤 음식, 어떤 영양제 같은 것들이 도움이 되는지에 관한 이야기도 상당히 자세하게 나오기 때문에 실질적으로 이 책을 읽고 나서, 그 검사를 만두씨랑 하고 나서 저희 삶에서 되게 크고 작은 여러 가지 변화가 있었다는 점에서 정말 실용적인 책이라고 느꼈습니다. 그래서 오늘은 데니얼 에이먼 선생님을 직접 채널에 모셨습니다. 우리가 사실 뇌 건강 하면은 어떤 음식을 먹어야 하는지, 어떤 영양제가 좋은지, 또 어떤 운동, 어떤 습관이 우리에게 도움이 되는지 여러 가지 말들을 들으면서 사는데, 그 질문 제가 생각나는 대로 다 했습니다. 정말 총정리 버전이라고 보시면 좋을 것 같고, 전체적으로는 행복에 관한 책이기 때문에 뇌는 행복을 어떻게 인식하는가에 관한 이야기도 나눴습니다. 여러분들께도 실질적으로 도움이 되는 인터뷰 그리고 책이었으면 좋겠습니다. I took the test with my husband, and my husband does have that singular from the hell. You described that in your book. What is the most important insight that you learn after studying so many brain images?
That you're not stuck with the brain you have, that you can make it better, and I can prove it. And every day you are making your brain worse through your behavior, or you're making it better. If you stay focused on loving and caring for your brain over time, it can get younger and healthier. The brain health assessment will tell you which brain type you have, which of the 16 types you have, but it will also give you a brain health score. And you can make that score better with your behavior. Do you remember your score?
Yeah, my score is a 71.
Oh, so it can be better.
it can be better. There's a lot of room, and I really like that part too.
Well, so many start lower than that, which is in large part why they're coming to see me. But, improving by 10, 20, even 30% is not uncommon. I'm really good at getting people to fall in love with their brains.
People are super interested in what to eat and what not to eat when it comes to the brain. But before we start talking about what is the best and worst food for brain health, how important is food for our brain health?
So your brain uses 20 to 30% of the calories you consume. Food is critical to mood, to cognitive function. There's a study at the Mayo Clinic where they looked at people who had a fat-based diet, healthy fat, avocados, nuts and seeds, healthy fish, healthy oils, 42% less risk of getting Alzheimer's disease. People who are on a protein-based diet, they had 21% less risk of getting Alzheimer's disease. But people who are on a simple carbohydrate-based diet, think bread, pasta, potatoes, rice, fruit juice, sugar, had a 400% increased risk of getting Alzheimer's disease. And so that really educates us on things to avoid. A healthy diet is filled with healthy fat, healthy protein, and colorful fruits and vegetables. So we often say eat from the rainbow. Somebody goes, but I love pizza or I love ice cream, but they don't love you back. I don't know if you've ever been in a bad relationship in the past, but I have. And I'm not doing it anymore. Like, I'm married to my best friend and I'm damn sure not doing it with food. I only want to put things in my body I love that love me too.
Why is a bad guy always attractive?
Interesting. It's an interesting question. But more interesting question for you. Why are you attracted to bad guys?
Do you have any evidence for diet soda or 0-calorie sugars like sucralose, aspartame, stevia, and their impacts on our brain?
So I'm actually a big fan of stevia because it has been shown to have a number of health benefits. I've known for a long time that aspartame is bad for the brain, and there are a lot of side effects with it. Sucralose, or Splenda here in the United States, decreases healthy gut bacteria, which is not what you want. You want a healthy gut in order to have a healthy brain. There are big studies showing it increases the risk of both obesity and diabetes. So it actually does the opposite of what people use it for. It says 0 calories. So they go, oh, this is free. I used to think that. And it's not free.
What about alcohol? Some studies say 2 glasses of wine per week doesn't hurt. It is actually good for your heart. But some people say that no, any amount of alcohol is harmful. Like, what is the conclusion that you have about alcohol intake?
Well, I've had this conclusion for 30 years. Once you start looking at the brain, you realize alcohol prematurely ages the brain. And then 2 years ago, the American Cancer Society came out against any alcohol because they said any alcohol is associated with an increased risk of 7 different types of cancer. And no amount of benefit to your heart is worth increasing your risk for cancer. It's also an increased risk to damage your brain. Any alcohol, according to a study from Spain, damages white matter in the brain. White matter or brain cell tracts, or think of the highways in your brain that transmit information from one side to the other or from one area to another area. And you don't want to be blowing up the bridges or, putting potholes in the highways to slow down information. People often don't think about this. 100 trillion bugs in your intestinal tract. And what do the bugs do? They protect the cell lining in your gut. They make neurotransmitters. They detoxify your food. They make vitamins. They help manage your hormones, and they contain about 60% of the immunity in your body. Damage the microbiome, alcohol, excessive use of antibiotics, eating non-organic food filled with pesticides. What do pesticides kill? Bugs. And you end up with this thing we call leaky gut, which some doctors think is the baseline of many different illnesses.
The biggest enemy is like doing it a little bit won't harm anything.
Moderation is the gateway thought to hell. Because whenever you say that, you're giving yourself a reason to cheat. I know a lot of diet programs, they build in cheat days. And I just think that's like so stupid. It's like, or people go on detoxes. I think your life should be a detox.
Another weakness that I have is caffeine. I'm a coffee lover. Can we drink at least a cup of coffee, or is that just bad at all?
A cup of coffee a day is not a big deal. But more than that, it constricts blood flow to the brain. So green tea is better because, yes, it has caffeine, but it also has theanine that helps balance it out. And so green tea tends to have fewer side effects and more positive effects.
And sugar. Is the sugar good at all? Because I hear a lot of people say when they're working on some hard things, they sometimes say that, oh, my sugar level is low, let me go take one chocolate or one candy bar. They do that?
Well, their blood sugar may be low, but it's often low because they had too much sugar to start with. And their pancreas saw their high sugar level and sent something out to lower it, but sometimes it lowers it too much. If you want to have a stable blood sugar, having more protein and healthy fat will just keep it level so that, too often kids come home from school and their parents give them a soda and a couple of cookies, then go study. Well, they can't study because their blood sugar is all over the place. If they would have given them like a handful of nuts, for example, they'd be able to study for much longer because their blood sugar is not bouncing around.
And last question that I have is just like social media. You are pretty active on social media. I love your Instagram and I love how you communicate with your audience. How do you manage your smartphone usage and keep your brain healthy?
Well, I have a team that helps me, and yeah, you have to limit it. People who are on 3.5 hours a day have an increased risk of obesity, anxiety, depression, attentional problems. I think it's a wonderful tool to educate people, but you have to be careful with it. Undisciplined social media practice, it can hurt you.
Dr. Eamonn, how does your morning routine look like? Here, I'm kind of trying to see what you do first thing in the morning and what you eat and when you do the exercise in your day.
So I usually spend a half an hour with my wife, just bonding and connect. I make a decaf latte for her with almond milk. My first meeting, I'm usually exercising during it. I have a huddle early in the morning and I'm either on my Peloton or walking. I lift weights 3 times a week. I usually don't start eating until 10 or 11 because I do intermittent fasting. That breakfast was actually a marketing tool from the Kellogg company. So breakfast is the most important part of your day. There's no scientific studies about that. Unless you have low blood sugar, intermittent fasting is a really good thing to do. So if you eat at 6 o'clock at night, don't eat again until 10 o'clock the next morning. Your weight will be so much better. Your energy, your cognitive clarity will be better. I usually start the day with a protein shake that have really healthy protein powder. I put all sorts of sort of cool nutrients in it, a cup of berries, right? Colorful fruits and vegetables, mostly low sugar, high fiber.
I feel like sometimes my memory is not as good as like 10 years ago. I was like a lot faster with all the math, and when I read the equation, I'm a statistician, but when I was trying to understand all this like papers and things, I was a lot faster with the numbers and things. I feel like my memory, my cognitive performance are not as good as before. Maybe it is the alcohol that I drank. I decided to quit, but anyway, it may be a mix of a lot of things. But for some people like me who feel like their cognitive performance not as good as they age, what kind of activity or behaviors can we do to recover and enhance our brain?
You want to keep your brain healthy or rescue it. We have to prevent or treat the 11 major risk factors that steal your mind. We don't have time to go through all of them. But for example, B is for blood flow. Low blood flow is the number one brain imaging predictor of Alzheimer's disease. Alcohol lowers blood flow. What can you do to increase blood flow to your brain? Exercise. Ginkgo, the supplement Ginkgo. I'm a huge fan. Beets, oregano, cayenne pepper, rosemary. So they're herbs that can increase blood flow. The I is inflammation, a major cause of memory problems. So taking omega-3 fatty acids, but most importantly is taking good care of your teeth and your gums. Because if you have gum disease, almost automatically you have brain disease. And so you want to become a bit of a flossing fool. And then you want to check your hormones. Because low thyroid can give you memory problems. And so making sure your hormones are optimal is absolutely essential.
Does Sudoku or doing the crossword puzzle, playing Go, chess, does that kind of activity also help to keep us sharp mentally?
It does. But if you're drinking while you're playing Sudoku, it sort of ruins the benefit. And then Korea is a big ping pong country, right? It's the best brain game because you got to get your eyes, hands, and feet all working together while you think about this spin on the ball. And people who play racket sports live longer than everybody else.
So when it comes to happiness, some people understand happiness as like big time, success, like huge changes, and in other words, intensity, versus some people really emphasize the importance of micro moments of happiness and some small achievement and like gratitude or exercise and so on and so forth. How does our brain perceive happiness when it comes to intensity versus frequency, especially?
Frequency is more important. And you have to be careful with the big moments. Because once you have them, you start chasing them. That can become a trap that you never get out of. I've been blessed to treat some really wonderful people, including Olympic athletes, Justin Bieber, Miley Cyrus. And I always tell them, you never want to be the best. You want to be your best. Because having to be the best is a prescription for misery. When you have to be the best, we have to put other people down. When you're best, well, you can bring everybody along with you. So having the mindset of I have to be better is a disaster from a human perspective. Being my best and helping you be your best is the best, I think, of our human experience.
I heard that you, on some interview, you said that achieving huge success at earlier stage of life is not necessarily very healthy because their brain is still not mature.
Well, your brain isn't actually finished wiring itself until you're about 25. And so early fame, think Justin Bieber, is damaging to the brain. And if you look at some of the craziness he got into with drugs and alcohol and relationships and so on, he was miserable when I met him. He's not miserable now, which makes me really happy because he can correct his negative thought patterns. these are just tools we should be teaching young people, and pushing them to be successful too early sets their brains up to be damaged and troubled.